Mechamaru is the early access character as of this video, and his current design does not seem to be good. This does not mean he's weak. I've won a few matches with him, but it does mean his kit is poorly made and doesn't really fit into Jujutsu Shenanigans, nor is it fun to fight or play with. Most of that stems from his second move right now, but there are issues with what Imed seems to be going for, which I'll talk about in this video. Mainly, you only ever use one of the two variants you're offered with each move, because one option is always so much better than the other. Let's talk about his moves to first get an idea of what I mean. Mechamaru's special activates an Ura on him, and using one of his moves, while this Ura is activated, will modify the move. This goes on cooldown after you use the modified move, and the cooldown is fairly short, so you can spam these modified variants pretty frequently. Mechamaru's 1 is a simple move. You do a brief startup, and then do a blockable dash forward that you can move in, which, if hit, grabs the opponent dealing decent damage, and then ragdolls them very close to you. This confirms into a down slam, which is pretty good, but the move itself is more so just kind of alright. It is punishable on block, and the fact that it's 360 blockable, while also being heavily telegraphed by the sound cue, means that on any opponent paying some attention to what's going on, it will always get blocked in neutral. I won't call it unusable, of course, because it can actually work well as a second forward dash to interrupt someone's move, start up off of a prediction, or to catch someone out of their ragdoll cancel if they aren't thinking ahead and are unprepared to press their F key. However, it's definitely a tricky move to use, despite how simple it is, because it's really easy to counter. I'd call it fairly balanced, if not a little bit mediocre. It's super reactive because of how easy it is to block, but the reward for landing it is pretty good. It's also not too hard to just weave into a combo, so all in all, pretty solid. The R special on this one just makes you teleport backwards, and then leaves behind a puppet that doesn't move in your place. You are virtually never going to use this move for two reasons. One, the puppet is super buggy, and will just straight up phase through whatever it's supposed to hit half the time. It also can't turn like you, so it makes the move much easier to avoid. Two is that the move uses up your R special, and you don't really want that because of something I'll get to later regarding his 2 move. There really is no reason to use this variant. It's not safe because of the huge end lag, so if you miss a variant, you'll get punished compared to the normal version, where you can just tilt your camera away and maybe escape. And it's kind of the first exposure to the big problem I have with Mechamaru's design, which is how there's a clear winner in his variants, but we'll get to that later. I gotta rant about his 2 move because it's by far the biggest issue I have with his kit. Mechamaru right now is in early access, so I would expect this to get addressed in the next update, but it does look pretty grim with how bad this issue is. The non-puppet variant of 2 is a very low startup dash that slaps the opponent away with a punch at the end. The dash can also be cancelled early to use a weaker punch that doesn't guard break and does 2 less damage. Now, a low startup dash sounds like something that's just good regardless, but because of all the other issues with the move, you are never going to use this ever. The first issue is the hitbox of the slap being very difficult and inconsistent to land. If you're not directly on your opponent for a good 0.3 seconds or so, when you start activating the punch, then it's just not going to hit for what I assume are issues with the hitbox lagging behind your actual character because of just how fast you're going. Making this happen without you getting M1'd out of the dash, or you just flying right by your opponent instead of sticking to them, because they move 2 inches to the left or right, is also unlikely, unless you're trying to use this move to counter someone who's turtling. Issue with that though, is that your puppet version is better at doing this in every single imaginable way, which I'll get to later, and also that there's so much time to react to the dash as it's coming towards you, that you can just unblock and move a little to make it significantly harder for them to land a hit. Final problem with the move though, is that you get pretty much no reward off of it. The ragdoll is too short to confirm a down slam, and your 1 move can only hit ragdolls off of an up tilt, which means that your reward for landing this move, that is already extremely difficult to land, is a measly 10 or 12 damage. Practically peanuts. The worst thing about all of this though, is that the move is insanely punishable. Not only does it have decently long end lag on whiff, it's also a move where trying to land it will put you right in your opponent's face, which means all you gotta do is press your left mouse button once, and now you're going to lose half your HP from a combo that lasts longer than Z's hiatus. It's a terrible move on its own merits that would only have a bit of use on its own, but it gets taken behind the Wendy's dumpster and shot 17 times because of the existence of this stupid, horribly overtuned move that carries the entirety of Mechamaru's kit right now, that being Boost On's R variant. Boost On's R variant throws out an extremely quick puppet projectile that bypasses block, the projectile having a fairly large hitbox. Anybody hit gets grabbed, tossed around in the air like a child in a washing machine, and then tossed right back to the floor for a long ragdoll, which is perfect for a down slam. If you want to be all stylish, the fact that the move tosses them down from the air means you can hit the target with your one move, so it's perfect for comboing. Oh, and the puppet also falls back to the floor before exploding for some extra damage, because why not? The move is downright uncounterable because it comes out basically frame 1. It's way too fast to react to, and the only counter to the move is dashing. This brings up the same issues that every move whose only counter is dashing faces, because it means that if your opponent ever, and I mean ever, uses their Q key, then their dash gets put on cooldown, and they are guaranteed to be hit by this move with no counterplay at all, even though they require their dash, usually for M1 characters specifically, to actually combo start or do a whole list of other things. The move is a glue to Mechamaru's entire moveset right now, and acts as quite literally everything. I might even go so far as to say it's the best non-awakening move in the entire game, and the only reason I'm not saying that with certainty is because I've been on break for so long and haven't yet read the whole update log. It's a complete shutdown to blocking, a complete shutdown to dashing, an extremely easy combo starter, a perfectly safe move so long as you aren't using it in forward dash range and miss it, and also a perfect combo tool because it can hit any form of ragdoll as well. The move also has extremely low downtime for its strength, with only a cooldown of 12 seconds, so you get a horribly overtuned move that single-handedly turns Mechamaru from being garbage into a genuine threat. Not because he has some full cohesive kit, though of course he's not going to have that because he's early access, like Megami or Yuji, but because he has one overpowered move that he spams over and over and over again until the opponent eventually dies. Mechamaru is not a character that fights, he's a character that poisons his opponent from the start of the match with about 35 guaranteed damage every 12 seconds. And if his opponent can't kill him before Mechamaru's guaranteed damage kills them, then the opponent dies. What I'm imagining is going to happen is that Imed will make the move blockable, and maybe increase the startup by a slight amount. That would make the move considerably more balanced while still being good. The issue is that it doesn't solve his base 2 move being horrendously bad, and now that I've said that, I'll go over why I don't like Mechamaru's gimmick. Mechamaru's entire gimmick so far seems to be that all his moves will have a variant on them, and I guess also his puppets, but they don't really function like puppets, and we already have Yuta for a character with a puppet gimmick, and a couple other gimmicks that are kind of just thrown in there. Mechamaru's puppets so far don't work anything like Yuta or Megami's, and are just different moves that share cooldowns with his other moves. But then in that case, Higuruma already does that. Only his variants are actually well designed, because his versions are actually side grades to each other, unlike Mechamaru's, where his 2 different moves each have a clear winner in which variant is better. His puppets don't really function like Megami or Yuta's either, where you can act while they're jumping the opponent for cool tandem plays, or whatever. Because they also put you in this really long stun that usually isn't an issue in the end, because his puppet 1 will never be used, and his puppet 2 is impossible to miss. What this makes Mechamaru is a generic sort of TSB character with no actual gimmick. Instead of having 4 moves, he really only has 2, because you're never going to use his other 2 variants. Like, sure, it's early access, which is what always gets said whenever someone criticizes an early access character, but at least with other early accesses, it's pretty clear what the character was trying to go for. Mechamaru doesn't have a gimmick because his supposed gimmick is that his moves have variants, which applies to everyone else in the game, and his moves don't really have variants when there's such a clear choice as to which variant you're intended to use. The alternative gimmick Imed could be trying to go for is that the normal moves are for rushdowning while the specials are for zoning, but even then, Mechamaru's special 1 is too buggy to be used as a zoning tool, and has practically the same range and function as a normal 1, so it doesn't do that at all. While his special 2 is so much better for combo starting or really doing anything, owing to how absurd of a move it is in general. I'm hoping Imed, or whoever the new developers are, I haven't really kept up with that, will figure out what they want Mechamaru to be as time goes on. Yuta did have pretty much the exact same problem of feeling like a generic TSB character when he was in the first stages of early access, and while it took a while, he did get his R special, which gave him a unique gimmick. I don't feel as optimistic with Mechamaru, mainly because he already has his R special, and what are essentially 4 moves that demonstrate what the developers are trying to go for, and he's kind of a mess kit-wise. Maybe I'll eat my words on this, and Imed will pull a 180 and make Mechamaru super creative. Right now, not my favorite. Anyways, that's all I have to say about Mechamaru. He functions as a character because of his one absurdly overpowered move, and the rest are just there. If you liked listening to this video, consider liking and subscribing to support more content in the future. I'm Noob Eternally, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in another video. Bye.